You're listening to the Building Wealth in Your 20s podcast, the show which puts you in the driver's seat of your financial future. Young people taking their money seriously. And now, here's the latest from Building Wealth in Your 20s.
Welcome to Sound Off on KSRM Radio. This is your community roundtable discussion program on the Kenai Peninsula, where for over 50 years we have discussed problems and issues that face all of us. Our phone number is 283-5811, so keep your phone handy and join us for Sound Off right here on KSRM. The opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of KSRM management, staff, or sponsors, but are those of the moderator and callers only. Now, here's your moderator, Tom Randall.
Good morning and welcome to Sound Off on KSRM. This is the one, Radio 92. And if you'd like to sound off, well, please don't hesitate to give us a call. The number's 283-5811, or you can text us 1-907-283-5811. And if you have something on your mind, give us a call. We do have a guest today. And we were having some fun before the microphones went live, and we couldn't decide if we wanted to introduce him as the distinguished entrepreneur Charles Baird or Chuckles the Bear.
Yeah, I was leaning toward the first one. I'll vote for the second. But either way, either way.
You know, sometimes I just don't hear what people want from me, and I just go. Yeah. And I just go with it. No.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Now, you're back on the Kenai Peninsula. You've been working on a project. I understand you have a film in the works right now.
Yes, we've got a number of them, actually.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the reason we invited you here today is that you are a prolific author. Isn't that an accurate statement?
I like to write. Yes.
You like to write. And not just on walls.
No, they discourage that, but we're doing mostly on Amazon.com. We're putting out, I think I've got 30 books out. About half of them are mine, and then a bunch for other people.
And the latest offering is something that's should be of interest to a large portion. I mean, I imagine that's why you wrote it,
right, exactly.
Is to address a specific demographic. Tell us a little bit about this latest one that you've written.
Okay, well, it's called Building Wealth in Your 20s, and it is just that. It's basically a primer on personal finance. As everyone knows, we just went through two major economic pullbacks. We had the meltdown in finance, and we had the meltdown in housing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are just gun shy. They're like, great, you just can't win. And I don't know, what's a stock, what's a bond, should I bother with this at all?
Mm-hmm.
Seems scary. People are sitting on cash in some cases.
Right.
And then we got a lot of millennials who are getting out of school, maybe have $50,000 in debt.
Mm-hmm.
And where do you even start?
Right.
It's overwhelming. It really is.
Okay. And I think one of the other things, and this has been one of my pet peeves for quite some time, is that we really don't teach any of that stuff to anybody.
No, you think about the educational system, and we have wonderful teachers who are working hard, but we haven't really changed our approach in about 100 years. We have one person in a room with 20, 30, 35 students. Right. There's some teachers really working hard out there, but it's a challenge, as you know.
Right.
But we don't talk about personal finance. What do we do? We know the math, we know English, but what about what's really important? Taking care of yourself and your family. That's the challenge.
And that's when I remember, when I take the memory aids or ginkgo biloba or whatever I'm supposed to be taking, and I get a fuzzy memory of back in high school when they finally started talking about personal finance. I think we had a one credit, whatever class where you had to take personal finance. Right. And most of it was how to fill out a checkbook register, which, of course,
that's good. But
some people have never seen a checkbook register today.
Oh, no, I haven't in a while.
And so there was how to fill out your checkbook register, which is basically in and out accounting.
Plus and minus.
Right. And then we would get a presentation typically from a financial services person, and back in the day it was a banker, and they would come in and tell you why you needed to apply for credit.
Okay. Well, you got more than I did.
And that was the be all end all of my exposure to personal finance.
Yeah.
They had the little budget things. You had the word problems of if you want to buy this car.
Yeah.
But it was basically trying to figure out how to put yourself into debt to buy the car.
That's right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I did a little bit better than that, actually. I didn't realize how good it was. We had to put together the budget of a single person right out of school. It's like, I don't know what an apartment costs. And
right.
So that was actually kind of a good exercise. And then the other thing we actually got to do is buy stocks on on paper, kind of say, hey, we're going to buy some General Electric, buy some Toys R Us. I bought Toys R Us right before Christmas time, which was it was really good and then it was really bad. I guess I could have seen that coming, but I didn't really learn much from it, but it was interesting. It got me watching. Mm-hmm. And then I was, I guess, ninth grade, 30 years ago, we just had that big pullback, Black Monday, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Market dropped 20%. Mm-hmm. So I saved all my pennies and I bought some IBM stock 30 years ago, which went nowhere. But it got me watching. And just kind of over the years, I had no money. I was in the military, so it was a little tight. But, over the years I've read, and I remember things that I was asking at 24, 25, just basic entry-level stuff. I had no idea. So basically I wanted to put this book out and kind of say, hey, here are the basics. It's not advice on how to invest, just saying, hey, here's what a stock is, here's what a mutual fund is. Here's what you can do in 20, 30, 40 years of investing. Yeah.
Okay. So you address the whole compounding interest concept, the reinvestment of dividends, the building. Right. Okay. So growth. So you're addressing growth there, and then how much time do you actually spend on what is what? You said just briefly. You said what a stock is, what a bond is. How much time do you spend on that whole definition?
Not a whole lot. A couple chapters we went through. What's a stock? Basically, buying a little piece of the company,
right?
And the company grows, and you get paid maybe quarterly in a dividend, and then also the stock goes up in value, hopefully, as the company does well. I think Apple just hit an all-time high because they're putting out a product which people apparently want to line up around the clock.
Yeah,
it's a telephone.
It's so much more than a telephone.
Well, it costs more than a telephone.
Have you not drunk the Kool-Aid? It's wonderful.
No, I do. I'll get one eventually. But it's just $1,000 seems a little steep for me.
A little bit high for the state of technology.
Yeah. So basically, we also look at the super basics of economics, personal finance. You have the income, you have the outgo, and the difference is what you're keeping, what you're investing, hopefully for the future.
All right.
So basically, these are some general ideas, some things to look into on approaches you might take to putting some money aside for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you got the book out and you published it. You hardbacked it. What did you do with it?
Right now it's on Amazon and it's $3, but I'm making it free.
And it's a download.
It's a download.
Okay.
Right. We'll have a print copy eventually here. But I did want to make it available to your listeners or really anyone on Amazon today. It is absolutely free. So
there you go.
Yeah. So
and it's called
Building Wealth in Your 20s. And it also works if you're in your 30s or older than, more mature than that. But it's what you should have learned in your 20s, but probably didn't like me.
All right. Now, what? So going back to there's individuals. Do you need to spend any time on the macroeconomic subjects?
Not a whole lot. There's not a lot you or I can do about that. But it's good to know what's going on. But we do talk about the cycles of the stock market. I got in 30 years ago and we've had, 5 or 6 crashes. And a lot of people say that the market just goes up and down. Well, it does go up and down, but overall it tends to go up over the long term, about 10%, which is actually pretty remarkable if you are, if you have some money to set aside for 10, 20, 40 years, you can afford to kind of let it ride. So I started 30 years ago and the market is up 1,000%. So almost anything I would have bought.
So that $1 you invested is now worth $1,000.
$10.
$10.
1,000%.
Oh, pardon me.
10x, but still, that's
still
great.
Not enough for a phone.
No, probably not. If I put 100 away, it would have worked.
Much better.
Yeah.
All right, we're visiting with author and entrepreneur Charles Baird. You're listening to Sound Off on KSRM. It's Friday, November 3rd, currently 32 degrees outside. Sound Off time, 9:15. Welcome back to Sound Off on KSRM. It's Friday, November 3rd. I'm Tom Randall, and visiting with us today in the studio is author, entrepreneur
Chuck Baird.
Hey, I didn't want to step on my toes again because the Chuckles thing went over like a lead balloon.
That's okay. Yeah.
All right.
It's Friday. I love it when the plan comes together.
Chuck Baird. Okay.
There you go.
Do you have theme music?
I don't. Actually, we do have some, actually.
You do?
You can hear it on the podcast. We have a little intro. We just put that out on iTunes a couple days ago. Got, 3 episodes up right now. We got the Halloween Spooktacular. We talk about how to kill the undead Bill. The one that just keeps coming and coming like a zombie. You know, in the movies, you got the monster or the bad guy coming, and he's got a limp, and maybe he's missing his foot or something. But he still outruns these teenagers every time.
I did find that interesting when I was watching one time, and it did occur to me.
Yeah.
This is a healthy,
fit football player,
cheerleader, whatever it is.
Run through the sprinklers. Yep.
They can run. They can dodge. And the guy who is dragging a foot,
somehow
keeps up.
A brisk walk would do it. Stop looking back. Don't go in the basement. Just walk away.
But then again, these are the same football players and cheerleaders that choose to run down the painted stripe instead of dodging between the parked cars to, when somebody's chasing them.
That's true, too.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So just a little movie trivia there.
Movies.
Watch it next time and chuckle for yourself.
Absolutely.
So we were talking about the latest writing project, which is a book on how to build wealth in your 20s, and that's the title.
That's right, Building Wealth in Your 20s.
All right. So now there are well-intended financial plans that we have for ourselves. We're going to have a budget. We're going to stick to our budget.
That's right.
Percentage of our money is going to go into savings or some sort of growth device.
Yes.
And then there's taxes.
Taxes, yes, that comes first. Comes out of your paycheck before you see it.
How did you address the taxation issue?
Yeah, so there's only so much you can do, but there are some vehicles that you can get into that are tax deferred or tax free. Biggest one probably is your 401k. If you have a job where your employer allows you to put aside, I think it's $18,500 this year. It's quite a bit, a big chunk of your salary. And generally that is tax deferred. So in theory, you're making a bunch of money now. You're working hard. When you retire, your income will be lower. So you start pulling it out at a much lower tax rate.
Right.
You don't pay the taxes until later.
And if you have an employer who has decided to endorse the idea of savings, there's a number of employers who will actually match a certain percentage.
That's right.
So if you were to put $1 in and they're matching 3%, you're actually $1.03.
Right. They may give you.
And 3% is actually more than you're going to get in a passbook savings account these days.
Well, a lot of them will put up maybe 60 or 70% or dollar for dollar.
I did not want to overspeak on behalf of the business owners.
I know. But most give more than 3 cents. I've had an employer that gave 60. I think another gave 70. And generally you have to stay with the company 3 to 5 years to be able to keep that. They call that vesting. Then when you quit, you get your money and you get their money, all tax deferred generally. So that is fantastic. More recently, they have a Roth version as well, where you pay the taxes now, but you put that money in, and it sits there and grows forever. It could sit there for 30 years, and the growth would be tax-free.
Right. Yeah. So the downside is you have to pay the taxes up front, then it grows tax-deferred, and then once you take it out, it is a tax-free withdrawal because you've already paid the taxes on it.
Not even tax-deferred, but tax-free. So if you think about the $100 that I could have put away 30 years ago, $900 of that would be earnings right now, and only the $100. So if I had done deferred, I would have taken $100 off my income 30 years ago, and today I could pull the $1,000 out, but I have to pay taxes on $900. If I did the Roth version, I would have paid 30 cents back then or $30 back then, and today I'd get $1,000 tax free. So so that's one approach you can take.
So it really depends on what you believe the future holds for you. Are you going to be in a higher tax bracket when you're older because you were successful, or are you going to be in a lower tax bracket because you're no longer working and drawing income?
Right, and that could be 30, 40 years or 20 years, depending on your age. In general, I tend to think that taxes will be higher because we're not, as a government, paying our bills right now. That money's coming from somewhere, but they're trying to lower taxes right now. So who really knows?
Well, and the other game they play is that they will push out retirement. Yeah. So
past your death.
59 and a half, you can start drawing.
Right.
But if you don't draw it by 70 and a half August, we're gonna take a bigger bite.
Exactly.
And those numbers will keep moving out as we keep living longer.
Right. Or they can punish you for having the money and say, well, you don't need Social Security as much. Or we'll just start taxing. Anyway, there's lots of games. The point is that if you have money, you have a little bit more control. I kind of like the Roth because I know I'm done with that. Taxes higher or lower, at least I won't be paying taxes on that little piece. So, but it's limited.
Right.
And if your employer doesn't have that, you can do an IRA, which is an individual retirement arrangement.
Now, and the other thing to be aware of, though, is that some of these cancel each other out.
Yeah.
So if you're doing one, you might not be able to do the other.
That's
so you want to be careful of just going out and saying, hey, I want one of those, and I want one of those, and I want one of those. I want one of everything.
There are limits.
Because,
Absolutely.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's a whole other subject matter.
But particularly if you're making a bunch of money, you may not be able to do a Roth IRA at all.
Correct. Right. So, yes, there's an upper income limit on the Roth.
That's right.
Whereas...
to have that problem. But, that'd be okay. But no, it's something to think about if you're doing well.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked about the book.
Yeah.
It is available on Amazon. It is a download, and today it's free.
It is free today.
All right. So you could give this to your kids.
Yep. I make nothing on this per unit, but I make up for it in volume. So it's okay. Yeah. Anyway, give it a try. There's no risk, and you get what you pay for it.
All right, cool deal. And I'm assuming that once they get on there and they find you and your book, it will help lead them to the other things you've written.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of books, fiction, nonfiction, a lot of nonfiction actually. And then we've been doing film, so we're keeping busy with that.
And we'll segue now, because that's how I actually ran into you again. Is you're back down on the Kenai Peninsula.
That's right.
And you're doing. Tell us a little bit about this project you're filming.
Right now, we're filming a movie called Dead Air about a radio talk show host.
I think you shot in this studio. I think you have.
Which was wonderfully very realistic. And we had a radio lady. Anyway, so she is a late night host. People call in, and she gives really good advice because she has slight ESP abilities.
Oh,
so
okay.
But she steps on some toes and makes some bad people angry, and then
is she a female Clint Eastwood?
She is. Well, kind of.
I mean, play Misty for me. This sounds very similar without the ESP.
Exactly. So, but we had some fun with that. So, doing this should hopefully we'll have that out by summer.
All right. So now, when you shoot something like that, is this this is going to be a short, or this is
actually a movie? And the interesting thing, the entrepreneurial side, the thing is that right now you can make a movie for not a whole lot of money. I've got 9 movies right now in post production, already been shot. This summer we did The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe, modern retelling of that. We've got a whole bunch more coming out. But you can make a movie pretty inexpensively. The equipment isn't insanely expensive. You can edit it on your home computer on Adobe. You can buy it relatively cheap, the software, and put it down on Amazon. Amazon really is changing the world. They've opened the door to smaller filmmakers like me. 20 years ago, you'd need millions of dollars. You'd have to shoot it on film, put it out in theaters. And now you can put it on Amazon pay-per-view or Amazon Prime, Hulu. It's a new game, so it's very exciting. Yeah.
Now, what is the revenue model there? So you go out, you keep your costs are low, and that's wonderful. You have a very low cost of production. So it comes down to your ability to shoot and tell a story that is worth listening to or worth watching.
Storytelling is critical.
Okay, so. Granted, we're gonna assume that you know what you're doing, because you're the director.
I am. I have a good team, though. Yeah.
So we assume that the director has a good story and the ability to tell a good story. You shoot it for next to nothing on a shoestring budget, as we used to say. You load it up to the site, and then what happens?
A couple options. One, I often will put things out in the film festivals, go that circuit, get some credibility, have people write reviews, get some nice words said. Then you put it on Amazon, and generally the model is we put it out there for 3 months. You can buy a copy for I think $13.99, get a disc or a digital copy for life. Then in the next 3 months, you can rent it for $3.99 or something, and then we just put it over to Prime. So a lot of people really want to see it initially, but a lot of people just randomly click on it if it's on Prime because you already are under subscription. So it's no incremental cost, or Hulu or Netflix.
Okay, so it's no incremental cost for the user.
Right.
But then when they choose you, you get paid.
Right.
Okay.
15 cents an hour. So it's not a lot, but it's if you have 5,000 viewers a month, it's kind of a trickle. And right now we're focusing on horror because people love that, and then also family films because there's actually not a lot of those that are not really bad. So that's the dream.
All right.
Yeah.
So we are talking with entrepreneur Charles Baird. Did I get it right that time?
You did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do our own films. We also work with other people. They say, "Hey, I got a script. I've got $20,000. Can we make a movie?" And the answer is yes, we can make a movie and actually get it out there. So we've worked with a couple writers.
But Ed Wood would have said the same thing.
He would. Yeah, Harvey Korman. Harvey Korman made money every time. He doesn't get a lot of respect from some people, but he made a bunch of movies.
He did.
Yeah.
And didn't he actually start the Death Race franchise?
I think he may have, yeah.
Yeah.
But he's like almost 500 films.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, he's a businessman. And we got a lot of new modern horror directors. Like Eli Roth, he makes $1 to $3 million movies that make 30 to 90 million every time. He's just very consistent. But yeah, it's a different game now. Yeah.
So Alaska, as we have experienced over the last couple of years, had a little bit of a challenge with its film industry.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
When we come back, we're going to get your opinion on how to fix that.
Okay.
You're listening to KSRM. This is Sound Off. We're visiting with Charles Baird, and he is going to give us the answer to a whole new economic sector when we come back. No pressure. No pressure at all.
Problem.
Coming up, we got ABC World News on KSRM The One. I'm Tom Randall. We'll be back. Sound Off time is 9:29. Welcome back to KSRM. It is Friday, November 3rd. I'm Tom Randall, and you're listening to a conversation that's been going on for over 40 years. Not with Charles Baird, our guest today, but overall, 40 years of talking about what's important to the community and what we need to do better or differently or just opinions. And if you have one, don't hesitate to give us a call, 283-5811. If you have a question for our guest or you just want to get on and give us an opinion. It's what talk radio is all about. Before the break, we posed the question to Mr. Baird: how do we fix the film industry in Alaska? What is your prescription?
Okay.
And please do not make it as expensive as an EpiPen.
I'll try not to. Yeah. So a little background: a couple years ago, the state government said, "Hey, we want to foster the growth of a film industry in Alaska." A lot of places do that. Vancouver, Louisiana, Atlanta, I believe. And we'll kind of throw in some money and help you out if you make a movie up here. And so we had some big films made up here, and budget kind of got tight, so they cut that way back, which is unfortunate. So yeah.
So now we have none of these programs. There's still
true.
A film office at the state of Alaska. I think
that is true.
One person in a cubicle.
That's right.
Half-time,
good guy
who might
hard.
Answer the phone.
Absolutely. No, they've been very supportive. Well, I guess there's no easy answer on this, obviously. The big problem is that we don't have money. So can we spend $200 million on that? Yeah.
But now,
now,
you have given us, before the break, you gave us a microcosm of how to make inexpensive films that potentially have wide appeal and can immediately address a viewership of millions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That could be. Absolutely.
Right. So, how do we sell the state of Alaska?
Yeah,
or at least lease it on a per view basis.
Well, that would be good too. Well, I don't generally look to the government for solutions. I look to the private sector.
I'm asking you because you are an entrepreneur, not the government.
That's right. We're the government. We're here to help. Although actually, they've been very helpful in some cases. I guess really what I would say is that if we don't have the budget to throw money at the thing, what we can do is get out of the way and just be helpful. And for the most part, we've had great support. As an Alaskan filmmaker, I'm obviously going to make films in Alaska, although I've done 3 in Colorado as well. But anything the government can do to facilitate that, letting us use state lands or permitting that sort of thing is very helpful. So that's inexpensive. That's an easy solution. We've had a lot of people that do struggle because of that. But I hear a lot of people complain. And as a filmmaker, I would love to get that free money too. But we will make 8 movies this year. Just me and my team. We'll put them on Amazon and get it going. So, working on a book on that too, and how to make a movie on a budget. But this is literally something anyone can do. Not anyone, but if you're focused, you can get out there and make a movie. We made our first movie on a camera we bought at Walmart, or not Walmart, Best Buy. And this last movie we shot on a $10,000 camera and just got some amazing shots. But this is something within the grasp of the hobbyist filmmaker, really.
All right. Now, as a community, Alaska as a community, are there things that we as community members and consumers of film and entertainment products can do that would help the viral effect?
Right. Well, you can obviously, if you see a film that you like, you can tell people about it. You can post it on your page, your web page, or Facebook or whatever. The thing that a lot of people don't think about is that if you write a review, that is really helpful. the books that I've written, the ones that have done well are, simple, short, cheap, fun, but people go out and write 10, 15, 20 reviews. And when people search for that subject, then that comes to the top of the list. And that is really helpful. I had a friend who we did a movie in Colorado called it Granny's House, about a bed and breakfast where bad things happen. It's kind of a fun, dark comedy. I may or may not get killed in that movie again. That's kind of my thing. But he did a viral emailing campaign, kind of bugged us all, but it was in the top 20 horror on Amazon for 8 weeks, up there with Carrie and The Last Witch Hunt, like real Hollywood movies.
Wow.
For 8 weeks. So that really is helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the quality level when it comes to with these small?
Sure. Well, they're hit and miss. We, I believe, do good work, and we are getting better over time with better equipment and just learning how to do the thing. But there are some amazingly good filmmakers here in Alaska, and you can see their stuff at like the Royale film competitions with the Anchorage International Film Festival, or something as simple as Open Projector Night, where everyone brings their films. And there's some really good films in there. There's some really bad ones too, but that's okay. You get your foot in the door. You meet the people that can help you grow, and you meet more talent. So I love those kind of things because of the diversity, the open door nature of what they're willing to share with people. But you really can do this now. The equipment is not that expensive, even in Hollywood. 10 Cloverfield Lane came out a couple years ago, and I think it's $10-15 million. It's a good movie. It was but there's a guy in that went off and did a movie called Hush. About a deaf lady who is a writer and lives in the woods in a cabin. Very good film. 3 or 4 characters, one location mostly. It cost $80,000, and it did amazingly well.
Well, and I guess the thing that I like about it is the here's my example.
Yeah.
So you're on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
There was a movie that I saw.
Yeah.
And I read the little blip on it. And I was like, I'd be embarrassed to watch this in front of my wife and my children because they're going to think I'm just weird.
Okay.
The movie was called Rubber.
Okay. About
the protagonist is a tire.
Well, that could happen. what does the protagonist do?
Kills people.
Okay.
So you have a homicidal tire.
It happens.
Rolling down a desert highway.
Yeah.
I mean, the production value on that is nothing.
Not great. Yeah.
No. I mean, the production.
The cost.
Quality is good, but the cost
is
of. I mean, the tire isn't going to get a residual or a paycheck.
It's not. That's true.
So you have this. So I was like, okay, when everybody has gone shopping one day, I'll watch Rubber by myself.
That's right.
And then I can talk to them and say, hey, this was kind of funny, quirky, whatever. Well, I come home the other night, and they've already watched it. And they're like, you got to watch this movie. It's about a tire that kills people.
Exactly. Everyone. There's some crazy films out there. But you can make these relatively inexpensive, and sometimes, the Sharknado effect. Mm-hmm. Those are making $40 million.
That's crazy.
And it's terrible. I assume I haven't seen them, but they look funny. Yeah.
That is a 2 tequila movie.
Okay. Then it's perfect. Noted.
We're visiting with Chuck Baird. When we come back, we're going to bring the conversation back to where we started. We've finished up talking about his book that is out and available on Amazon right now for no charge. Give us the title.
It is called Building Wealth in Your 20s, and that's the same title for the podcast on iTunes.
All right. You're listening to KSRM. It's Friday, November 3rd. Sound off time is 9:42. And if you'd like to sound off, give us a call, 283-5811. Or you can text us, 1-907-283-5811. Had a couple of texts that came in. Want to say thank you to everybody for their nice words out there. And speaking of nice words, here's a great word for you. Success in your 20s. Financial independence in your 20s. Those are powerful, powerful concepts. And our guest today, Charles Baird, has written a book that... Well, it's somewhat autobiographical because this is all things that you did in your 20s to help put yourself in a place where you could do things like pursue your interest in films and other things. So what a lot of people are put off, and especially the younger, the millennials, where there are articles being written about the potential earnings that they're missing because of their distrust of the current financial, how we do business.
Absolutely.
And some people would view it as, if I want to gamble, I'd go to Vegas. How would you respond to somebody who said that investing is no different than throwing dice?
Gambling. Well, it is such a natural reaction, particularly you think about someone who's 25, 26. They saw their parents struggling to keep the house maybe. They saw the market crash, back, 8-9 years ago. And that is true over the last 8 years. The question is, you got to look at the long term and say, you're planning to retire in 30, 40 years, on average, what happens? And on average, the market will go up about 10% on average. If you buy a house, it may go up and down, but you know that over the long term, it's probably going to keep its value. It'll probably go up over the long term a little bit each year. And so it can be really scary when you look at what just happened, the recency bias.
And if we take a look at that, I had the opportunity. I was looking at property in Anchorage.
Oh, yeah.
And so I went to the street that we moved to when we moved in from Tok to Anchorage.
Yeah.
It was a little rental property that my family rented until they could buy a house. And it wasn't for sale, but the one next to it, which turned out to be identical, something you miss when you're a little kid. You don't realize the houses are
all
identical.
The same. Yeah.
But the house next to it, identical lot, identical layout.
Yeah.
1,100 square feet.
Yeah.
My parents, as a young couple coming in from the bush, were able to rent it for their 2 boys. Today, on special, $300,000.
Yeah.
So if my parents had bought that for $35,000 back in the 60s, $300K today.
Yeah. But, that's only about 3 to 4% growth per year. But it's steady, pretty boring.
And it's compounded.
It is. And we know it's going to grow. Over time, it has for the last 100 years or so. The stock market is like that. It is more volatile. The ups and downs are bigger. But, if you stay away from the crazy, the go-go stocks, get the things that are making money, that's a good red
good
a
flag.
good thing, right? And avoid the crazy stocks. The ones that we hear about are the exciting stocks that are possibly making no money, but may make it big. That's speculating. That's gambling. If you buy something boring and consistently invest it for many years, on average you'll probably do well. But that's boring, But
well, and that's, I know a guy.
Yeah.
I know a guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he is actually an investment professional.
Yeah.
And he said, when people are saying things like that, and he says, well, if you want spicy, buy Schilling.
Yeah.
And Schilling is a spice company.
Okay.
So it's one of those things you don't think about.
Right.
It's not necessarily really sexy unless you're actually cooking.
Right.
But
I bet they make money.
You got
boring.
In your kitchen.
Yep.
There is at least a cubic foot
of them,
of their product.
Yeah.
That you keep buying more of.
Exactly.
Especially in the fall.
Yeah.
Pumpkin spice. How many times do you need to buy it? Apparently every year.
Go through a lot. Yeah.
Well, this is Sound Off on KSRM. It's Friday, November 8th. We're visiting with Charles Baird. Sound Off time is 9:49. Welcome back to Sound Off on KSRM. I'm Tom Randall. We're visiting with Charles Baird. He has just put out his latest book, and it's all about building that financial base in your 20s. The book is called, Charles?
It is called Building Wealth in Your 20s, and it is 100% free today only on Amazon, and the podcast is free on iTunes and Google Play, wherever podcasts are.
All right. Now, you made a good point before we went into the break. You said, if you're going to buy a stock, it's not like gambling. It's not like going to Vegas. Buy ones that make money, and then you'll make money.
Right. In theory, that's
Now, an interesting corollary to that, for lack of a better word, is what they call the odd lot theory.
That's right.
Now, when you're buying stocks, if you buy a round lot, that is 100 shares.
Okay.
Now, not all of us have the ability to do that. Matter of fact, very few of us have the ability, especially when you're looking at Amazon or Apple, $1,000 a share. So 100 shares, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So a lot of us don't have that ability. So we buy odd lots, less than 100 shares.
37.
12. 37,
Yeah.
12. Two.
Yeah.
Two. Done that.
I have too.
And so the theory says that odd lot traders are always wrong.
Oh, okay.
And here's the thought behind the concept, is by the time you and I look at something and go, I've read about this.
Yeah.
I did some research. I like it. I'm going to buy it. By the time we make that decision, it may have peaked already.
Okay.
And is going to go the other way.
The news is already in. Yeah.
What do you think?
That makes a lot of sense. I guess the odd lot people would probably be at lower end, so they're probably newer investors. Snapchat came out recently, and a lot of people love that because they love Snapchat. I love Snapchat. It's not making money though.
But now there's a whole nother thought on that too. Is that if you have a young company that is attempting to build itself.
Oh, absolutely.
They're not going to be giving dividends.
That's right.
But the stock is going to be increasing in value.
Absolutely. Right.
Okay.
It's a momentum stock.
So there you make the money on buying low, holding, selling high.
Yep.
You don't get the dividend income in between, but
maybe they may grow.
They may grow.
Like them. They may get bought out, or they may figure out what they're doing and start making some money. No, they may. But
that's a good statement, because if you look at the conglomeration that is attempting to control what you eat today,
right?
Amazon,
and everything else.
They were, for the longest time, a thread's width from being called a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
Because they kept taking investment
and putting it back in.
And they were making no money for years, for a decade.
Yeah.
They made no money, but then they finally, as you said, figured it out and became a very profitable organization.
Yeah. Jeff Bezos is now the richest man on earth in the history of the peoples.
And he started
books.
And he started in a garage.
That's right. Selling books. I'm selling books, so I'm hoping in 20 years I'll have my 90 billion.
Jeff, well, you need somebody to polish your Jags
fenders. I will
fenders.
let you know. Come on, guest house. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so what haven't we covered at this point?
Just the challenge of investing, the latte effect. This is something brought up. I forget who it was, but basically this guy was briefing people on HR, briefing, saying, hey, if you just put away $10 a month or $100 a month over time, that's great. And this lady is like, I am in debt. I got college debt. I am barely getting by. And he says, okay, I know you're hurting, but that coffee, what are you drinking? She's like, it's a latte, and it was $6. And he's like, well, it's $6. If you just put that aside, every day, if you drink one a day, it's something like $600,000 over 40 years, which is kind of a crazy example.
Right. But it's so true.
It is. The point is that we all have our lattes. Maybe it's cigarettes, maybe it's candy. I don't know what it is. But is there something you could cut? Maybe it's Netflix. Are you watching Netflix every month? If not, maybe cut it off. But it's something to think about. We can all tighten our belt a little bit. That's the latte effect. And then the corollary of that is that generally it's not the latte effect that really messes us up. It's the bass boat, Tom Randall. It's because I need a bass boat. I'll get it on credit.
It's not the bass boat. No, it's not the bass boat.
No.
It's the 200 horsepower Merc you got on the back of the bass boat.
That and the truck you now need. Don't tell the wife, because it won't go over well. But it's sometimes we buy a bigger house than we need, a bigger truck, whatever. And I don't want to say live in a hut and eat rice.
But you've done it.
I have done that. That's true. That's a different story. But the thing is, we can look at our life and say, where is my money going? We are in control. We are the man behind the curtain, pulling the strings.
Right.
So something to think about.
You're listening to KSRM. This is Sound Off for Friday, November 3rd, currently 9:55. Welcome back to Sound Off on KSRM. I'm Tom Randall. We're visiting with Charles Baird. We've been discussing finances, celebrating his new book. Give us the plug.
It is called Building Wealth in Your 20s. It is free today on Amazon, and you can get the podcast on iTunes or Google Play, Building Wealth in Your 20s.
All right, so one of the things that we talked about, and this is the last 2 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, one of our listeners
Yes.
said, well, what about mutual funds?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
what about mutual funds?
Mutual funds are a fund, a bucket of money that we mutually fund. You and I put our money in, or whoever, and we buy a basket of stocks, which is a great idea.
And not just a basket of stocks, but we hire somebody whose job it is to trade actively or inactively, depending on the fund, to make sure that it either matches the market as in an index fund or
does better, hopefully.
There we go.
Absolutely. So, and that's great, because we're talking about some of these go-go stocks that are high risk. Okay, you want to stay away from those probably. But even if you were into those or into the safer stocks, if you buy a basket of them, on average, they're not all going to go bankrupt. The S&P 500 index fund, there's a bunch of them. Really boring. It is 500 stocks, but it will ride the economy up and down as the economy does. It's McDonald's and Boeing and Home Depot.
And it addresses the problem of the odd lot theory.
Exactly.
And that instead of you trying to take the $100 that you put away this month and buy 2 shares with it, it takes that $100, gives you the end of day pricing on the fund, and you get 100 stocks instead of 1.
They may find good deals on 15 stocks this month. We'll buy those, and next month it'll be something else, and just kind of follow the market. But it takes out some of the volatility, the ups and downs, and the risk.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the question. This is Sound Off, and that's going to do it for me today. Thank you very much to our guest, Charles Baird. Give us one more time where we can go out and find out more about success in your 20s.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's good to be here. You can find Building Wealth in Your 20s on Amazon.com. The book is free today. You can find us on Facebook, and you can find us on iTunes for the free podcast. Building Wealth in Your 20s.
All right. And then you'll give us a thumbs up when the movie comes out, right?
Absolutely. Coming out soon.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening. This is Sound Off on KSRM. Next up, the one, the only Karen McGann, right here on KSRM. Now, ABC World News on the one.
You know what, Chuck?
What?
Everyone should join our online community at Facebook.com. You know what the call words are?
It's Facebook.com/Building Wealth in Your 20s.
Or we got a fantabulous book. You can buy it on Amazon. What's that one called?
It's called Building Wealth in Your 20s.
The Building Wealth in Your 20s podcast is a product of Baird Media. This podcast is meant for entertainment and educational purposes only. Nothing should be taken as advice for you specifically. For personalized advice, don't listen to these guys. Go talk to a professional.